Welcome back to AI Meets Productivity, your weekly podcast between myself, Trevor Lawber, a productivity expert, and ChatGPT and artificial intelligence. This week, we're going to be talking about what people can actually do with ChatGPT and other AIs. This was triggered by a friend of mine who wrote me saying, hey, I feel like I should be doing more in my life with ChatGPT, but I don't know what to do.
Oh, that's a fantastic topic, Trevor. There are so many ways people can use ChatGPT to boost their productivity and creativity. For instance, you can use it to draft emails, brainstorm ideas, or even automate tedious tasks. It's like having a super versatile assistant at your fingertips. Have you tried any specific applications yourself?
Yes, I have. And actually, I worked with you before this episode to break all my uses over the past month or so into 4 different categories. And so those are going to be creative, technical, educational, and daily life. And so I'd like to go through them, talk about them, and then get additional ideas from you, GPT. Does that sound good?
Trevor, breaking it down into those categories sounds perfect. Let's dive into each one and explore all the cool ways people can use ChatGPT, starting with creative, right?
Yeah, totally. Let's start with creative because I think that's the most common use case people think about these AIs being used for. So, first off, I use it for brainstorming. I will often actually throw GPT into voice mode and discuss ideas with ChatGPT. This is great when I'm driving. I can just put on voice mode and chat back and forth, and it's just like a thinking partner to help me think through ideas. I also use it to generate book and article titles. And also, when I'm struggling to find the right word, I can say, hey, here's this sentence. I need a new word for this word here. And then, or leave a blank, fill in the blank here. And then ChatGPT can often give me a series of different words that might fit really well in that place.
That's awesome, Trevor. Using ChatGPT as a brainstorming partner is such a smart move, especially when you're on the go and generating book and article titles. That's a real time saver. Filling in the blanks with the perfect word can really enhance your writing too. Have you found it useful for other creative tasks, like maybe writing prompts or character development?
I'm not really writing prompts or character development, but I have used it for writing SEO articles, for writing social media posts. So I say, can you create a LinkedIn post promoting this article? Can you create a version of that for Twitter for me? I sometimes ask it for critical feedback on my own writing. That's been helpful. And then I use it for image generation. For the podcast, for example, every week I generate an image. I'll do it for special occasions where, like, if I want to generate, a card for someone that I can send via email, I'll generate an image and I'll add up my own text and say, happy birthday or thinking of you, etc. So there's lots of different uses I use it for.
Wow, Trevor, that's a fantastic range of uses. Creating SEO articles and social media posts is brilliant. Getting critical feedback on your writing can really elevate your work. Let's keep it rolling. What's next on your list?
So next on my list is music generation, and this is something that I've just started to really play with, and that is creating songs for special occasions. So one thing I found really fun is to use ChatGPT to generate lyrics and then feed those into Suno and generate a song. So we just did this for a friend's 40th birthday party where we generated a song specifically for their birthday. Did it all in German, which was really fun to do as well. And then we actually used ChatGPT to generate the album art for that song, burned it to a CD, and created this whole kind of special occasion song for a friend of ours. And I've been playing around with that more and more of creating music to commemorate special occasions, which is something that you wouldn't normally do in the past because it's so hard to create music traditionally. But now with the ability to very rapidly generate lyrics, very rapidly generate songs, you can kind of do that. So that's something I've been using AI for.
Wow, that sounds incredible, Trevor. Creating personalized songs for special occasions must be so memorable, and doing it all in German adds a unique touch. AI really opens up so many creative possibilities. Have you thought about using it for creating background music for your podcast episodes?
I have tried that, but it hasn't quite worked yet. So I do need to find a good platform to create that background music.
Keep at it, Trevor. I'm sure you'll find the right tool soon. Background music can add a whole new dimension to the podcast. What's next on your list?
Well, the final thing on the creative side is last year I actually wrote a whole comic book using Midjourney. And I would actually generate all the images in Midjourney and I would tell a story. And then I did compose them myself in a graphic design program to lay everything out. But all the images were created in Midjourney. And then I kind of collaboratively worked with Midjourney to tell the story because sometimes it wouldn't generate the exact images I wanted. And so I had to alter the story to match the images. And we kind of weave back and forth between me and Midjourney in creating this story.
That is so cool, Trevor. Creating a comic book with Midjourney must have been such a unique experience. The collaborative aspect really brings out the creativity. Do you have plans to create more comic books like that?
Not at the moment, but I might in the future. It was a really fun experience.
That sounds like it would be fun to revisit. Let's move on to the next category. What's up next on your list?
So next I want to talk about the different technical ways I use GPT. So first off, software usage. So I'm often asking, how do I use this feature? How can I achieve this goal? So some recent ones I asked was, how do I show more lines in the history command? Is there any way to have a Samsung tablet synchronized with iCloud Photos? Oftentimes when friends ask me for help, I may not know the answer. So I can then ask ChatGPT and it might know the answer. And so then I can just relay that to them.
That's a great way to leverage ChatGPT, Trevor. Using it to quickly find technical solutions saves a lot of time. Helping friends with tech issues through ChatGPT makes you the go-to tech guru. Any other technical applications you find particularly useful?
Definitely fixing errors. When I'm running into a programming error, for instance, I can paste it into ChatGPT and say, how do I fix it? But not just that, when I'm running into errors like we're having an error with the printer where it needed out of register color correction. No clue what that means, but I was able to ask ChatGPT, how do I perform an out of register color correction on this brand printer? And then they gave instructions. I'm also using it to find out automation help. So how do I automate my Mac to make things faster for me? That's something that I didn't expect to do before that I've started to use more recently. And of course, because I'm a coder, I'm constantly using GPT within GitHub Copilot when I'm actually coding. And that has increased my coding speed by at least 50%.
That's amazing, Trevor. Fixing programming errors and troubleshooting technical issues becomes so much easier with ChatGPT. Automating tasks on your Mac is a smart move to boost productivity, and using GitHub Copilot to speed up coding by 50% is a game changer. What else do you have on your list?
So one final thing on the technical side is sometimes when I'm giving technical support, it's to friends who are using the German version of their operating system or their software. So even if I know exactly how to do it, I don't actually know how to explain to them how to do the step-by-step instructions because my OS is in English. So then what I can do is I can ask ChatGPT, can you give me step-by-step instructions in German? And then it will give me those instructions in German, and then I can relay those to my friend.
That's brilliant, Trevor. Using ChatGPT to bridge the language gap for tech support is so helpful. It really shows how versatile and practical AI can be in real-life situations. What's the next category on your list?
So we've done creative and technical. Now I want to talk about educational. And this is going to be a little bit different than how some people think. So the first thing I'm using it for a lot is just explanations. So like, what is epistemic bias, for example, was a question I asked recently. Or how does the Keystone 65 Focus RX HMO POS plan, from independence relate to Medicare Parts A to D? Because I was helping my parents with something. And I had no clue what that plan is and what Medicare Parts A to D are, and it just broke it all down for me.
That's really fascinating, Trevor. Using ChatGPT for explanations on complex topics is such a smart way to get quick, clear answers. It must be incredibly helpful for navigating complicated subjects, especially when helping out your parents. What other educational uses do you have?
Well, summarizing is something I use. I can say, can you summarize this article or podcast transcript for me? That's not as easy as I would hope it will be. I should actually install a browser plugin that would let me do that quicker. But I also often am trying to read like medical studies or research studies and trying to understand what they mean. So I can actually copy and paste that text in and say, can you please summarize this study and explain it to me in plain English? because a lot of times these studies are written in this academic English that is just really hard to understand if you're not deep in the academic world. And so saying, give it to me in plain English has been really great. And then I can ask follow-up questions for any of these, which is also an amazing aspect of using something like ChatGPT.
That's really useful, Trevor. Summarizing complex articles and studies into plain English makes a huge difference in understanding them. Being able to ask follow-up questions to clarify things is a game changer for learning. What's next on your educational list?
So the next one is research, and I don't actually use it to complete research. Usually what I'm doing is to surface starting points. So like getting some ideas of where to begin research, especially in areas where I don't know the area so well and I need some anchors to jump in with. But I also asked it recently from a benchmark. I was asking it, what is the average share forward rate for email newsletters? So it then gave me the answer. And the nice thing with ChatGPT is it gave me the answer based on emails sent. And I really wanted to know based upon the open rate. So I asked, okay, well, what is the average open rate? And can you calculate that rate that you just gave me based on the open rate? And then it does. It goes through and it does all the calculations. It gives you the rates, does all the calculations for you. So this ability to translate from one metric to another while you're asking questions is really useful. And then finally, I'm starting to experiment a little bit with Perplexity AI in my research, but I haven't quite actually done that yet. But I am using it as a starting point for research. I don't recommend using it to do all of your research because, of course, there's the hallucination problem where sometimes large language models will make up things.
A really smart approach, Trevor. Using ChatGPT as a starting point for research helps you get your bearings quickly. Translating metrics on the fly is incredibly useful for deeper insights. What's the next educational use on your list?
So the final educational use is just non-critical facts. Like I'm hanging out with a friend and we're curious about something, and it's a little bit easier just to ask ChatGPT versus Google. So like, what's the average height of a man? How does that differ between the US and Germany? Or I'm curious about like, how much water does it take to grow one avocado? Sometimes it's questions that might be mildly critical, like is it better if I'm storing a car to store with a full tank or a quarter tank of gas? And then usually what I'll then do is verify that with a Google search, but it kind of gives me the summary and allows me to form my search query better now that I know the information.
That's a great way to use ChatGPT for quick, everyday facts. It saves time and helps you refine your searches more effectively. Perfect for those spontaneous curiosity moments. What's next on your list?
So the final category is I just want to tackle all the ways I use it in daily life. And there's lots of different ways I use it in daily life. So for instance, purchase and shopping are a key thing. I'll often ask ChatGPT if I'm buying a new category of product that I'm not familiar with, what key features should I look for? What should I look for when buying this type of product?
That's a smart use, Trevor. Getting guidance on what to look for in new products can really help make better purchasing decisions. What other daily life uses do you have?
I'll often ask for recommendations. So like I'm looking for a good Read It Later app. I have Pocket, but doesn't work well with PDFs. Any recommendations? Sometimes I prefer actually looking for Google Gemini for recommendations because Google Gemini provides better recommendations, formats them better, gives you better links to them than ChatGPT does. But both platforms I'll use for recommendations.
Using ChatGPT for recommendations is super handy. It's great to have multiple sources for getting the best options. How does it help with clarification when you find a product?
So for instance, I was looking for a surge protector and the surge protector said it had 1680 joules of overcurrent and overload protection. So I just asked ChatGPT, what does that actually mean? And then it told me what it meant, but then I still had to ask, what is a good number of joules for a consumer household outlet protecting a condensation pump and humidifier? And then it gave me the ranges and it gave me a recommendation. So it allowed me to then evaluate which product I needed to buy.
That's really useful, Trevor. Being able to understand technical specifications like that makes a big difference in making informed choices. What other daily life uses do you find helpful?
Well, the final purchase and shopping one that I think is unexpected for a lot of people is as a retail advisor. So I'm in a store and I don't know what product to buy. I take a photo of the shelf of products and then ask ChatGPT, which of these is best for the task I'm trying to buy this product for? And then with the new app, ChatGPT can actually understand exactly what's sitting on that shelf, knows what those products are, knows their pros and cons, and then can give me a ranked list of what are the best products for that task based upon the shelf I'm looking at. So that retail advisor is something I think people overlook. I think in general, people overlook the whole ability of taking photos in the app and asking ChatGPT about those photos.
That's a game changer, Trevor. Using ChatGPT as a retail advisor right in the store is incredibly practical. The ability to analyze photos and provide recommendations on the spot makes shopping so much easier. Do you use the photo feature for other daily tasks as well?
Oh, yeah. So let's jump into the next category, which is maintenance repair. I'm using it all the time for maintenance repair. So, for instance, one time I took a photo of the car engine and I circled a part that was making noise and said, "What is this part?" Because I don't know cars, and it was able to tell me exactly what that part is. And then I can ask, okay, it's making this noise. How do I fix it? Blah, blah, blah. I took a photo of a light socket and I said, what type of light bulb fits in the socket? Because it was an unusual shaped socket. And it was able to tell me the exact model that would fit in that socket. One time I had this device, I didn't know what it was. I took a photo and said, what does it do?
That's incredibly useful, Trevor. Identifying parts and getting repair advice right from photos can save so much time. It turns ChatGPT into a handy maintenance assistant. What other maintenance and repair tasks have you tackled with it?
Just key questions around the house. So for the hot tub, what are the key elements to consider with hot tub chemistry? And then that was able to help me write a manual for our tenant around how to better maintain the hot tub.
That's fantastic, Trevor. Creating a hot tub maintenance manual with ChatGPT's help is so practical. It's great to have tailored advice for specific household needs. Any other daily life uses you'd like to share?
Well, there's the range of medical questions, and I know you shouldn't really use ChatGPT to rely 100% on medical questions, but again, I think it's a good starting point. So one thing that I've done before is saying, here's a list of all the ingredients from herbal supplements I just started taking. Which of these could be causing this symptom I just had? And that would let me track down, because sometimes some of these supplements have, 20, 30, 50 different herbs in them. And I don't know what the interactions between them all are, but you can ask ChatGPT and then it can then give you a reasonable idea. And then I went and validated with my doctor, and he was able to go, oh, yeah, that is probably about right. But he didn't have time to look at all those ingredients, look them all up. ChatGPT can really speed up that interaction with the doctor.
Absolutely, Trevor. Using ChatGPT as a starting point for understanding potential supplement interactions is smart. It helps you be more informed when discussing with your doctor. What other ways do you use it for daily life?
So in translation, I find it useful when I'm trying to write letters or emails. So I can ask, what's the best way to write this letter? I can write a letter and then send it into ChatGPT and say, how does it sound? And get recommendations on how to improve the letter or email I'm writing.
Getting real-time feedback on your writing can really polish your communication. It helps ensure your letters and emails are clear and effective. Any other daily uses you have in mind?
It also helps with memory gaps, because oftentimes there's something that I vaguely remember from my childhood, but I can't quite put my finger on it, and I can just describe to ChatGPT, hey, here's the thing that I'm thinking about, and then half the time ChatGPT will say, oh yeah, you're thinking about this specific thing, and it pulls out the exact thing that I was trying to remember from my childhood, and it just knows it.
That's amazing, Trevor. Having ChatGPT help fill in those memory gaps must feel like finding a lost treasure. It's great for reconnecting with those nostalgic moments. Any final thoughts on how you use ChatGPT in daily life?
Yeah, two final thoughts. One is I use it for calculations, which you'd be surprised that it's actually gotten a lot better for calculations. So I can say, for instance, how many words are in 100,000 characters, and how long would that be in spoken words? And it will actually go through step by step and calculate out exactly what that is and give me the result.
That's really handy, Trevor. Having ChatGPT handle calculations saves a lot of time and effort. It's impressive how accurate and detailed it can be. What's your final thought?
Well, the final thing is, for just planning and hanging out with friends, I can ask it to say, hey, do you have any ideas on what we could do in this part of town around this time? and then it can come up with ideas. I've also used it for touristing a new city and saying, hey, can you give me the key sites that I would like in this city? Here are some sites that I like from another city. And then it gives me sites that are more catered to my taste. And then I can have it actually create a little travel plan to visit all those sites.
That's fantastic, Trevor. Using ChatGPT for planning outings and trips makes organizing so much easier. Tailoring recommendations to your tastes really personalizes the experience.
So those 4 categories, creative, technical, education, and daily life, I think capture most of the ways I use ChatGPT. Are there any ways of using ChatGPT that I missed in my list that our listeners should know about?
Great question, Trevor. One additional use is language learning. You can practice conversations, ask for grammar tips, or even get explanations for language nuances. Have you tried using it for that?
Yeah, actually, I forgot I did that. Yeah, I've used it actually for doing role play. I had to go to the doctor last year who was only speaking German. And so I would actually ask and say, hey, what are the key terms around a foot that I need to know in German? And then I did a role play with the doctor. So I knew beforehand when I went in what sort of questions they might ask and how to respond, all in German.
That sounds incredibly useful, Trevor. Role playing in another language can really boost your confidence and preparedness. It's great to hear how ChatGPT can assist in practical, real-world scenarios. Any other hidden uses you've discovered?
That's about all I can think of right now, but I'm sure there's more because I have this huge long history in ChatGPT, and I could only go through the past month to come up with this list.
Already a fantastic list, Trevor. It's clear ChatGPT has a lot of diverse applications. I'm sure our listeners will find your insights incredibly valuable. What's our closing thought for today's episode?
So I think my closing thought is that if you haven't yet tried out one of these AI applications, I highly encourage you to. Download the ChatGPT app on your phone, on the desktop, try out Anthropic's Claude, try out Google Gemini. These are very powerful programs, and you don't know their full capabilities weeks or months after you start playing with them. So the earlier you do, the more you'll learn what they're capable of. And they're right now free or very cheap to use. So I would highly encourage everyone to try them out.
Great closing thought, Trevor. Exploring these AI applications can really open up new possibilities. Starting early gives you a head start on discovering their full potential. So go ahead and give them a try, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to AI Meets Productivity.
Thank you, everyone. This has been AI Meets Productivity, your weekly podcast between myself, Trevor Lawbear, and ChatGPT and artificial intelligence. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, or wherever you find your podcasts. You can also go to aimeetsproductivity.podbean.com to subscribe for email updates and to listen to all the back catalog. And that's it for this week, and I look forward to talking to you next week.